And welcome to episode 12 of RaiderZone Podcast. As I'm Will Brienza, along with me, Brendan DeVenny, and we'll have a couple guys joining us as the night goes on. But start just us two, as we'll get into some MLB, college basketball, NBA, and NFL. Obviously, with MLB, things starting to heat up a little bit. College basketball. There's two undefeateds in men's, and women's one of the undefeated falls. In the NBA, we'll get into the new nets and the tops of the conferences. And in the NFL, we'll talk about the divisional round and some new coaching signings. So we'll start off with the MLB first and foremost. Like I said, things starting to heat up. It's been a pretty dry off season. But the New York Yankees, they make the first big splash this past week as they signed Corey Kluber to a one-year deal worth $11 million, and they also re-signed DJ LeMahieu to a 6-year extension worth $90 million. Brendan, what does this Kluber signing mean for the Yankees rotation, and is signing LeMahieu to a 6-year contract at 32 years old a good move?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, the fact that they now got Kluber. Looking at how many former Indians that they have now in this rotation and lineup. You look at Clint Frazier. He was a rookie with the Indians but never really played at Progressive Field. Gio Urshela was a former Indian, really that played that hot corner well for the Tribe in 2017. And now they take Corey Kluber. Kluber had that brief stint with the Rangers, but never really did anything. Didn't make a name for himself. Again, injury problems. But the thing with the Yankees, they are contenders every year. I mean, I know that they just went the whole decade without a World Series title, which is very unlike the Bronx Bombers. But it's always kind of been the pitching. It's really been the issue with New York. They got the offense. There's no question about that. LeMahieu, Judge, Volt, the whole lineup, really, But now adding Corey Kluber is the same question I have for Kluber is the same question I have with Lindor. Like, what version of Kluber are you going to get? Are you going to get Cy Young Corey Kluber, or is he going to be just kind of average, which it was the way that he was in his final years with Cleveland and then with Texas. Is he going to be able to give you 6-7 innings a night with 10-plus strikeouts? That's really what New York is expecting out of him. He's going to be added to a lineup that includes Garrett Cole, Luis Severino, Jordan Montgomery, where it is stacked, and he's going to be able to kind of feed off of them. He's in good company, but I don't know if he's the answer right now for the Yankees' issues. As far as LeMahieu goes, he hasn't even really showed his age yet.
Yeah.
He's going 500 at-bats a year, around 20 home runs a year, which is, kind of off pace of Aaron Judge, but he hasn't really showed his age yet, and I'm not really worried about that with the Yankees. I expect them to be contenders again next year, but good pickup from Kluber to really add some depth to that rotation.
Yeah, I agree. It's a good pickup as far as depth goes. You don't know what Kluber you're going to get. Obviously, coming off an injury once again, has had an injury-prone career, but when he's on the mound and healthy, one of the most dynamic pitchers in the sport. But like you said, he's joining a lineup or a rotation with Garrett Cole, Luis Severino, Jordan Montgomery. They're still trying to get Tanaka back, so he's still a free agent right now. But if they get him back, Kluber would fit in that 4th or 5th spot, and to have Kluber as your 4th or 5th pitcher, you're sitting pretty. It's as simple as that. So I think it's a good signing. You just hope that he stays healthy. Even if you're not a Yankees fan, Kluber's always one of those guys that's really fun to watch when he's healthy. And so to get to see him healthy once again and hopefully pitch a full season of baseball will just be fun to watch for everybody in the sport. And I agree, signing LeMahieu, 6-year contract, takes him to year 38, but a guy that you said 500 at-bats and hits 330 every year, you don't see contact hitters fall off like you do the power hitters at that age. So I expect him to, at least 4 of those 6 years, produce 300 baseball and a great glove up the middle. So great signing by the Yankees. 2 great signings by the Yankees. And it's just crazy what money can do for you if you have it. But
Yeah.
we'll move on. Continuing on the AL East, the Blue Jays, they take a big name off the board. The second-ranked free agent behind J.T. Realmuto, George Springer, the former Astros outfielder, signs to a 6-year deal with $150 million with the Jays. Brendan, does this signing make the Jays a contender in the AL East, or do they still need more?
Yeah, well, you're really just including George Springer in this kind of hot off season for Toronto, because they went out after Springer and added Michael Brantley.
It actually, Michael Brantley, that fell through. Michael Brantley's re-signing to the Astros. That's why I didn't mention it.
Did he? I totally missed that.
It just happened like literally 30 minutes ago. But yeah,
wow.
That deal fell through, and Brantley's got a 2-year extension with the Astros. That would have when I saw the news of him signing with the Blue Jays, okay, their outfield just got lethal. But unfortunately, that fell through. But still, they get the number 2 ranked free agent in George Springer, who is still in the prime of his career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if they were able to add Brantley, that would have meant Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Springer, and Michael Brantley all in that outfield. And that is a pretty underrated outfield, if you ask me. But, okay, no Brantley. Still adding George Springer to the top of that lineup. You'd expect him to lead off in that lineup. Then you have Bo Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Biggio, Randall Grichuk. I mean, that is kind of an underrated lineup. I mean, it's kind of scary in that American League East. They're really now able to contend with Tampa and New York. I mean, I'm not really even going to consider Baltimore or Boston right now in that division. But a strong lineup now, adding some, postseason experience, World Series experience to that lineup is huge. He's now like the veteran in that lineup, because that's a very young lineup with Guerrero and Bichette, young guys. And even, looking at their rotation, they picked up Kirby Yates from San Diego just the other day. Had Hyun-Jin Ryu, Robbie Ray, Ross Stripling to that rotation. Not a strong one. I mean, that's not a very intimidating rotation, but it is, I think, enough to get you in contention. So Toronto, really out of nowhere, is going to be able to contend next year for potentially a wild card spot, making that AL East, pretty contentious.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe one more big signing could help them, especially in the pitching department. Kirby Yates, obviously a good closer, a good back end in the bullpen. You added, like you said, Robbie Ray. You have guys like Tanner Rourke, decent pitchers. The rotation's nothing to write home about, but it can get the job if need be. And the bullpen is so-so. I would say the only other position they're really looking to fill is catcher after that. I mean, the lineup seems pretty solid. You have Danny Jansen and Alejandro Kirk at catcher. But other than that, I mean, at first base, you have Rowdy Tellez, a nice up-and-coming guy. Kevon Biggio, Bichette up the middle. Vladdy in the corner at third. And then you talked about the outfield. You got Gurriel, Springer, Grichuk, and then DH, you got Teoscar Hernandez. That's a pretty good lineup. And a young lineup, too. George Springer will be the oldest in that lineup at 31. And he's going to be a leader now.
Yeah, they kind of have two of the more exciting young bats in the majors with Bichette and Guerrero Jr. Yeah. I mean, they really bring some life, bring some energy to that lineup that really baseball has kind of missed in quite some time now. Just their swagger in that batter's box really intimidates pitchers and makes it fun to watch for a non-fan.
And what a lot of people forget is they just missed out on the playoffs last season. They went 32-28.
I think they did make.
Did they?
I think they made that wild card.
Did they make that final wild card?
They lost both games, but.
Let me look at the AL playoffs.
I'm pretty sure they snuck in like the last seed.
Yeah, they did. They got that. They did get that last seed. They got swept by the Rays. So the fact that they're already in the playoffs, you had George Springer. I mean, that all depends also if the playoff format sticks the same. It's really tough when you're in the same division as the Rays and Yankees, but nonetheless, you had a great, great player in George Springer. Really, the only one that seemed to play well after the cheating news came out. You saw a lot of averages drop off, but Springer still stayed consistent. So, got the best of the Astro scandal, if you say that. But yeah, so a huge signing for the Blue Jays, and they should be on the coattails there of the Yankees and the Rays. So keeping it in the American League, our last big signing here. Well, obviously, breaking news: Michael Brantley re-signs with the Astros. We won't really get into it much. I mean, you know what you're going to get from Dr. Smooth: 300, 15, 20 home runs, and he's going to hold down his corner outfield position. But the Angels, they signed Jose Quintana to a 1-year deal worth $8 million. Brennan, how big is this signing, since it seems that pitching has been the kryptonite of the Angels every year?
I really couldn't tell you. I mean, Quintana, yeah, he's one of the better pitchers in the American League, but yes, it seems like pitching holds down the Angels, but is it just the pitching? Like, the lineup has some strong names and bats, but it's never consistent. I mean, do you really want David Fletcher leading off at second base? He's not gonna get you run production. I don't think. You're weak at the catcher position. Shohei Ohtani is just not doing it for me. I don't think he's really living up to the hype, in my opinion. I mean, Mike Trout, Jose Iglesias, and Anthony Rendon really have only been able to provide the run production. And that rotation, I mean, there's some high ERAs, average. I mean, year in and year out in that rotation. Andrew Heaney, Dylan Bundy, Griffin Canning, too high of ERAs that really do not keep the Angels in ball games. They are in a tough division as it is, with Oakland on the rise, and I don't know where Houston's going to be this coming year. They'll be able to be the same or not without Springer now. It's just a weird scenario with the Angels. You got Mike Trout, the best player in baseball, which I think can be debated. But if you never make the playoffs, what is the point in keeping him? I don't think this really helps him at all. I see them missing out on the playoffs again next year.
Yeah, you hope for the sake of Mike Trout, a guy that everybody wants to see in the postseason. I mean, even if you don't think he's the greatest right now or the greatest to ever play, he's a guy that you want to see in the postseason. You see all these stars, but you haven't seen Mike Trout. This doesn't seem right. So you hope for the sake. They do have Joe Madden, so he'll be coming into a second season as the coach. Obviously, he broke the long streak in the Cubs organization, World Series streak there. Jose Quintana, I don't know where they're going to put him in this rotation. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't think he has the power to be an ace, but I know he's not the bottom of a rotation guy, so it's going to be interesting where they fit him in. But nonetheless, a left-handed pitcher that can go out there. And yes, he's a little streaky, but when he's on, he's one of the underrated pitchers in baseball. So I still think it's a good signing for the Angels, especially considering that's their biggest weakness. But there's still more work to do. They put a lot of money into two guys, and you need 26 to get anywhere. You know what I mean? Seems like the only guys getting paid on that roster are Trout and Ohtani was paid well too, but
Rendon.
Yeah, Anthony Rendon. So Rendon, Trout, and Ohtani really the only guys getting paid. You gotta do a little more. Pujols is getting paid too, but they paid him at the wrong time of his career. So gotta spend the money better, that's for sure. But that guy's probably getting $30 million, and he's 40 years old. So hey, he's winning.
He's doing enough. I mean, I can't believe that he's been able to hang around this long. So
yeah, that's true. But that'll be it for the MLB. So that'll take us over to basketball now, as we'll talk about college hoops first. In men's, Gonzaga and Baylor both remain undefeated in men's hoops. They'll hold on to the top two spots. As far as women's go, Stanford, they lose their first game, drops them to number 5, as undefeated Louisville takes over number 1, and then undefeated NC State and UConn also at 2 and 3. Your thoughts on this last week of college hoops, Brendan?
Yeah, it was a good one. A couple upsets.
Yeah.
From Saturday, Minnesota took down number 7 Michigan. Minnesota has been prone to knocking off some top 10 ranked teams. So they're like second or third upset.
They didn't just knock them down; they beat them down.
75-57, yeah, 18-point win. They held Michigan's leading scorer Isaiah Livers, I think, to only 11 points. So that's really impressive for Minnesota. Again, we've talked about all season long that the Big Ten is on the rise in basketball. Big East had an upset in overtime. This was a huge game on Saturday. Butler knocking off Creighton by 4, 70-66. Creighton was number 8. Butler was unranked and has a losing record. So that was a huge upset for the Bulldogs. But it was, I think there's a lot of cases where I think we're really starting to, in college basketball, the top teams are starting to break away. Gonzaga and Baylor had easy wins over this past weekend to remain undefeated for both of them. So I think we're really starting to break away, and top teams are separating themselves. So heading into, end of January, beginning of March, we're really starting to see who the better teams are. And from the looks of it, I would not be surprised if the champion comes out of the Big Ten or Big East.
Yeah, I will say my biggest takeaway through 9 weeks is it's still hard to get used to not seeing Kentucky, Duke, or North Carolina in the top 25.
This is the first time since like 1968 that none of them have been ranked in the top 25.
That's wild.
So I don't know if it's all three of those coaches are really high in their ages, or they're not recruiting as well anymore. But the so-called blue bloods are not the contenders anymore, and preseason next year, don't bother looking at them.
Yeah. Some of the blue bloods still finding their way. In Gonzaga, we've seen them pretty good, especially recently. They're at number 1. Then Villanova, Michigan, Kansas all in the top 10. Teams that usually see there towards the top. Virginia, another team, they're ranked 13th. So you still have some of those teams that you see taking one of those top 3 spots seeding-wise, like a 1, 2, or 3 seed in the tournament every year. You still see a lot of them, but it's definitely weird not seeing those 3. As for me, I totally agree with the Big Ten. Really fun to watch, kind of beating up on each other. Like, look at it like a team like Ohio State. You go and you beat Illinois, and then you get upset by Purdue at home. Just things like that. It's tough. Purdue's not a bad team by any means. They're not one of the ranked Big Ten teams, but they're still going to battle you in every game. That's just how Purdue basketball is. Another upset, Florida and Tennessee. Florida, I wouldn't say this is an upset per se, but based on rankings, it looks like it. Florida, a really good team. They've just had some unfortunate situations going down early in the season, but they come out and they absolutely dismantle number 6 Tennessee, 35-49. That was a game that I watched and was kind of disappointed in the fact that it wasn't a close game. Villanova avoided an upset too. I watched the Villanova Seton Hall game, 76-74. Fun one to watch there, as it was a close one, but Villanova able to hold on.
The Big East is just like the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Phenomenal teams up and down, whether they're ranked or not. Yeah, I mean,
100%.
It's a basketball conference, so they're good.
Now, what games in the week ahead catch your eye, men's or women's?
Well, looking at Saturday, I have to look at Ohio State against Wisconsin, 2 top 10 ranked teams in the Big Ten. Another one, Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been playing really good basketball as of late. They had an upset against Texas, I think it was. They get to play number 9 Kansas now at home. So Kansas potentially on an upset alert there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Big East has a top 25 ranked game as well. Watch UConn. Remember how UConn used to be so dominant a while back? They're kind of making a comeback now, trying to make a name for themselves. They get to play number 11 Creighton.
Yeah.
So just a few games there to make it a really good college basketball Saturday.
Yeah. I agree. A lot of good games coming up this next week. What doesn't get talked about enough is women's hoops, though. This next week has a lot of fun matchups, starting tomorrow even. Michigan, Ohio State will battle out. That's always going to have a little bit of blood between it just because of the rivalry. Michigan's still undefeated in women's hoops, too. Then you also have Louisville, who just took over the top spot due to the Stanford falling. They play number 23 Syracuse at home. Syracuse, obviously, 7-1. They're trying to give Louisville their first loss now as they remain undefeated. And then Friday, number 5 Stanford, number 6 UCLA. Two teams you always see making it deep into the women's bracket. They'll battle it out on Friday night. Other than that, as we get into the weekend, not a lot happening over the weekend. But then you get into early next week. Maryland travels to Ohio State as number 7 Maryland takes on number 17 Ohio State. So fun Big Ten basketball over in women's as well. But I agree with a lot of what you said as far as the men's games go. You're always going to look out for those Big Ten games. Creighton, UConn should be a fun one. Baylor, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State not ranked, but they played very good basketball as Baylor tries to stay unbeaten. Ohio State, Wisconsin, one I'm watching. And then Texas Tech, West Virginia, Monday night, probably the big game that Monday night that I'll be watching. So a lot of fun basketball going into the next week as we continue into conference play. You know how conference play gets so exciting, especially as you get late into February and it's getting close to the conference tournaments and then the big one, the NCAAB championship tournament. 68 teams battle out to see who's crowned the new national champion of college hoops. So as we get into it more, it's going to get even more fun to watch. So we'll continue with basketball. We'll go into the NBA now. It's Brendan, the Brooklyn Nets. 2-0 with James Harden, Kevin Durant. Those two look unstoppable together. They will now add Kyrie Irving tonight, actually. They're playing right now against the Cavs. He stepped away for a couple weeks, obviously, due to personal reasons. Some people didn't like it. You and I, we were really like, you know what, it's whatever. Let him be him. How dangerous will the Nets be with this big three?
Well, I mean, you got arguably the hardest player in the league to defend in Kevin Durant. He's basically a 7-foot point guard forward. He can play every position, basically. So they're just flat out dangerous from there. James Harden is just a, stat stuffer, basically. He'll be able to rebound for you, pull up from three. And then Kyrie Irving, arguably the best handles in the game. Pretty debatable, but his handles are top-notch, some of the best in the league. So just from that standpoint, it's going to be real interesting to see how they share the ball. One of them just said the past day or so that the three of us aren't selfish. We'll be able to pass the ball. Hey, get your assist number up. I mean, this will help you if you want to get those double-doubles, triple-doubles. It's going to be real interesting to see how dangerous they'll be. I say pretty dangerous. Looking at their past week, on a 4-game win streak right now, just snuck past the Bucks, took care of Orlando, took care of the Knicks. All close games so far, but they're put the ball in the right guy's hands at the end of the game, like Kevin Durant, and he'll lead you to a win. They're definitely my favorite in the East right now. It'll take some time, I think, for them to get going. Easy a couple of games here to get going when you play the Cavs back-to-back, because you can afford, to just throw them out there and easy competition to get used to with each other. So, my favorites in the East. This is going to be the new big three. They'll all be pretty dangerous.
Love it. Ben just joined us. Ben, we're talking about the Nets 2-0 with Harden and Durant, adding Kyrie tonight. What are your thoughts on this big three? How dangerous are they?
I think they're incredibly dangerous offensively. Really, they just need to find some length, shore up defensively. That's a really tough team to beat. I mean, even without Kyrie, because Lord knows he might decide to just step away again. But just with Harden and KD, I mean, that's a dangerous team. So you add Kyrie in there, who's one of the best finishers in the game. That's going to be a really dangerous team, and for sure an Eastern Conference champion probably come May.
All right, love it. So I agree, they're pretty dangerous. The East has been fun to watch. There's a couple teams playing really good basketball as well. But when you talk about that big three, it's gonna be tough to defend three guys that can score from anywhere on the court. All three great shooters, and all three can drive. And you talked about it, Brendan. Kyrie, great handles. KD even has great handles. Harden even has great handles. So it's gonna be tough to defend any of those three. But speaking of the Eastern Conference, the Celtics, Bucks, and Sixers find themselves right now in a three-way tie for first in the East right now. Brendan, you kind of touched on it. You like the Nets; they're your favorite right now. Which is there another team you're liking right now, or is the Nets your favorite for making a run and taking over the Eastern Conference top seed?
No, I mean I would say Milwaukee, but Milwaukee is not really showing me a lot of promise right now. Like I said, just lost to the Nets. They've got the Lakers coming up tomorrow night. I don't really see them winning that game. They're only their most recent loss, as again, not the Nets, but they lost to Utah pretty bad. I don't know what happened that night, whether they sat some players or it was just an off night or something. But I mean, they only beat Cleveland by 10. Cavaliers played really well against them, shut them down. I mean, when you play a good defense, Milwaukee has not been able to, pull away and gain large leads. They they beat Detroit only by 9, held off Dallas by 3. They are not the dominant team like the Clippers can be, or the Nets, where you're winning by 20 plus. Once Milwaukee can start putting together solid wins, and not put the win at the end of the ball game in jeopardy, and give team life in that fourth quarter, then they'll be able to really start solidifying themselves as the number one team in the East. The other teams that you mentioned, Boston and Philadelphia, still need some time right now. I'm not really sold on either of them. Boston's been playing well. I have to give it to them, but Philadelphia really is not, in my opinion, a dangerous team right now.
Okay. Ben, your thoughts on the Eastern Conference? You liking one of these teams, or is there a team not in first place that you could see making a run and taking over?
Yeah, I think the Nets. Honestly, I like them to win the East. I think they've got too much offensive firepower not to win the East. I don't know if they'll win the finals and get past the Lakers. They'll probably have to shore up a little bit, pick up some role players, some defense stuff to shore up that end of the court. But I think they're probably going to win the East. I mean, I think Boston, they're well coached. Jason Tatum is a star. So they'll be a good team. The Heat will probably end up being good again once all said and done. We get to the playoffs. Milwaukee, I don't think their title window's open because it's really Giannis and Chris Middleton, who sometimes decides to play like a 2 and sometimes wants to play like a role player. So I don't think they really have a shot to win the conference. But I got to say, I think the Nets, they got to be favorites in the East right now.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you guys. The Nets off to a slow start, obviously, when Kyrie steps away. You didn't have Harden quite yet. KD's doing a lot on his own. One of your big players goes down in Dinwiddie. Just and a new coach, so things didn't start off great. They still were able to get to 500 with playing okay basketball, and now you add Harden and Kyrie's back. I think this team's just going to soar from there, and I could see them definitely taking over the East. And I agree with everything you guys said. Celtics, great team, still a little young, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I mean, your superstars in his third season. Bucks, it's Giannis and some guys that decide to show up, like Ben said, and the Sixers. It's Joel Embiid and a couple guys that can't shoot. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. But I definitely could see the Nets taking over the East eventually down the road. Now, moving over to the West, the Lakers, they hold on to the top spot in the West. The Jazz and Clippers are on their tail, both half a game back. Ben, I'll start with you. When do the Lakers pull away, or do you think they could be caught?
I think the Lakers at some point are going to hit their stride and they're going to probably pull away. I'd expect the Clippers to kind of make a run towards them and give them a run for their money at some point this year. But I think the Lakers, just the way they reloaded after last year, plus with Anthony Davis, who's up there for Defensive Player of the Year consideration, LeBron James, who's always going to be in that MVP conversation, might not win it, though we can all admit he probably should as the best player in the league. I think at some point they're just going to put together a run and they're going to pull away and probably win by a nice, probably 5 games. Probably about 5 games. They'll get the regular season title on the 1 seed.
Okay. Brendan, your thoughts on the Western Conference?
Yeah, so the Lakers, going all the way last year, short off season. At some point, I would expect maybe LA to start putting minute restrictions on some of their guys like Anthony Davis and LeBron. Specifically, LeBron, given his age and wanting to save his best for the playoffs. I would expect, maybe mid-season, the Western Conference starts to, even itself out, become more contentious, and then you start putting together the whole lineup in that last third of the season to solidify that number 1 seed, pull away for the playoffs so that they're hitting their stride and have a lot of momentum going into April and May. But, you really have to watch this lineup. It would be a good idea to save Anthony Davis and LeBron and get some of those younger guys, some of the newer guys out on the court together so that they have some better chemistry more than they do just now, so that everyone's playing at their best in March, April, and May to really, solidify themselves and gain momentum to get that championship.
Yeah, I agree. The Lakers are my top pick in the West. I think they'll eventually pull away. Like you said, it just seems like, they didn't get the longest break like everybody else does, so obviously that's going to affect you. But they'll eventually catch their stride and pull away. I agree with Ben. 5 games is probably a safe bet, especially with the Clippers being as good as they are. I don't see it being much more than 5 games. If anything, it's going to be closer than that. But I eventually think the Lakers hold on to this top spot. Before we move on to the NFL, though, Jacob not with us because he's at the Cavs game tonight. The Cavs just went on a 13-0 run to close out the first quarter, and they lead 28-23 over the Nets. So, there's that. So, but it's only the first quarter.
Cavs right now are the 7th seed in the East.
Yeah, it's only the first quarter.
Only 6 wins, but
yeah,
we'll see if the new guys can maybe, and once you get Sexton and Garland back, put the whole team together.
Yeah,
they might be able to sneak into the postseason.
Yeah, for sure. But quite a run there to end the half. So we'll move on to the NFL now. We'll start with stuff that's going on in the news before we get into the divisional round. So we talked about who we thought was going to fill some head coaching spots next week. I don't know if any of us got – everybody got the Jaguars pick, right? So the Jaguars, they signed Urban Meyer. We all knew that was going to happen. It was basically a done deal. The Jets, they go after defensive-minded coach Robert Saleh from the 49ers defensive coordinator to replace Adam Gase. The Falcons, they'll go offense as they sign Titans offense coordinator and Arthur Smith as their new head coach. And then today, the Detroit Lions, they signed the Saints assistant head coach and tight ends coach, Dan Campbell. Oh, there we are. They signed the assistant head coach Dan Campbell to a 6-year contract, so the Lions find their next guy. Taking a lot of heat for this one just because not a big name, but he obviously played a big role in the Saints, who have been good for quite some time. Texans, Chargers and Eagles all still looking. Brendan, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on the head coach signings so far? Any you love, any you hate? Your thoughts?
No, I like the signing of Robert Saleh. Finally gets his due. Finally gets the head coaching position. I feel like it's been like 5 years that he's been in talks of becoming a head coach every offseason, but then no one gives him a chance. So here he comes in, a really disgruntled and messed up organization in the Jets. He's going to have a real hard time to really create a good culture there, which they just don't have. But coming from San Francisco, defensive-minded, San Francisco making the Super Bowl last year, they've had a really strong organization. I think he'll be able to. I think he's up for the task. It's funny how there's a lot of news surrounding the Jets right now. Does Deshaun Watson go there? Is Sam Darnold the quarterback for the future? Him being a defensive-minded coach raises a lot of questions about where they're headed as far as the offense goes.
Mm-hmm.
The other signing that I just really don't get, and I have a lot of question marks about where their organization is going, is Jacksonville. Urban Meyer, after they won the Rose Bowl a few years back at Ohio State, he was like, I'm never going to coach again. Maybe that was just in the heat of the moment or something, but I just don't see him like succeeding here. Like, I just see 8 or 9 losses next year for the Jaguars, and his career is going to get tainted by being the head coach of the Jaguars. You've got to. I mean, they'll probably take Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 pick, but Urban Meyer, he's a college coach. I think we're just going to see a similar scenario here that we saw with Nick Saban. Doesn't succeed in the NFL, but he is the best college football coach of all time. I just don't know why Urban Meyer would want to do this. I mean, I'm not his conscience, so he's obviously has other thoughts and plans for the Jaguars. But, again, a really difficult organization. They've never been able to put together a winning team. I don't know if Trevor Lawrence is the answer. I don't know if Urban Meyer is the answer, but I just don't get that. I don't get that signing.
Okay. Riley joins us here for the NFL part of it. Riley, your thoughts on the head coach signing so far? Any you love, any you hate?
Yeah, so the head coach signing that surprisingly I love is Arthur Smith. I think he's a guy that hasn't gotten enough respect in the NFL. He's been the offensive coordinator of the Titans. They've really taken a huge step forward. Mm-hmm. And, Ryan Tannehill has found his ground in the league, and that offense performs just better as a whole. So I think that having a guy that knows how to maximize the talent that Atlanta has offensively is super important. We all know that their previous head coach was more of a defensive guy. That's just the way that he was. But I really love the Arthur Smith signing, and I'm with Brendan on this. I think everything you said about Urban Meyer is true. In my opinion, this is a placeholder coach. This is them trying to put a guy in place that's going to change the culture in a 3 to 4 year window, and then they're hoping that they get the hire after that correct, and they can continue to build on whatever Urban Meyer wants to build there. But I don't see Urban Meyer as the end goal, as the end solution for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I feel as if they would have been better going with a guy like Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, someone who is going to really embrace those young players. He's going to maximize the potential that they have offensively, and he's going to get the right D coordinator. I'm just not sure that Urban Meyer is going to mesh so well in the NFL since he's not accustomed to being in NFL circles.
Yeah, I'll agree with both the things you guys said on Urban Meyer and the fact that what if the migraines come back? I mean, there's the risk factor there. It's been the reason he's left 2 schools. So, Ben, your thoughts on these signings? Any you love, any you hate?
I like the Arthur Smith hire by the Falcons. I think that's good, like Riley said. Since he's come to Tennessee, He's done a lot for them. He's helped us reestablish that Brian Tannehill is a quality quarterback and he can win games for you. So I think that's a good hire for them to go with, since they do have Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. Who knows how long they'll be there, but he has some pieces offensively that he can work with. So that's a good hire. Robert Saleh is a nice defensive hire for the Jets. They've tried the offensive guru with Adam Gase. Didn't work out. They're going the other way. And Robert Saleh has had success with the 49ers, comes out of a solid organization. I think that's a pretty solid hire for them. I like that. I'm surprised Eric Bieniemy's not getting more love as a head coach, potential head coach. But, of course, he's still coaching, so we'll see how that turns out. I would expect him to go to the Texans. But And finally, the Urban Meyer hire, I think it's a culture thing. I'm with Riley. I think the big part about Urban Meyer is that he's going to bring a championship mindset and culture. Not that he's necessarily going to blow it out of the water and win double-digit wins right out of the gate. I think the big idea is just to get that culture turned around, so then you can just hit on that hire after Urban after 3-4 years if he resigns or steps away from the game again. You're in a good place. You just have to get that coaching hire right. So I think that's probably what they're trying to do there. So, yeah, that's what I think of all these head coaching hirings so far.
Yeah, I agree with the Bieniemy take on. I think he's the Texans' next head coach, and I think that's why there's been no announcement. Is because he's still coaching, and you can't hire until they're out of the playoffs. And it's gonna be.
I disagree. I disagree, man.
You don't think Bieniemy's gonna get hired?
I think Bieniemy is going to get hired, but I think that's just not a palatable position for someone of his quality. I don't think that he should be going to the Texans.
So who do you like, Chargers or Eagles?
I think Bieniemy with the Chargers would
Justin
be
Herbert.
absolutely special. I mean, imagine what that guy could get out of Justin Herbert.
Yeah, I'd like that. That'd be fun to watch for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like the Texans are going to try everything they can on Bieniemy because he's one of the guys that Watson really likes, and that's their last saving grace at keeping Deshaun Watson. But we'll see. There's still guys like Brian Dable, the offense coordinator for the Bills. He's still coaching. He's one of the top guys that's been looked at. Maybe he's one of those signings as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. As far as other news and coaching, Adam Gase is getting looked at by the Seahawks for offensive coordinator. Like you said, he was big offensive mind, really successful as a coordinator. Head coaching hasn't worked out for him very well, but people are wondering, Gase and Jamal Adams in the same organization, is that the best thing? So we'll see as that continues as well. Also in the news, Phillip Rivers has announced his retirement from the NFL after a 17-year career, 16 with the Chargers, 1 with the Colts this past season. 8-time Pro Bowler, he finishes 5th in career passing yards and passing touchdowns behind the same 4 guys in both categories, in Breeze, Brady, Manning, and Favre. Ben, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on Phillip Rivers' decision to retire, and who should the Colts target in free agency or the draft?
I mean, it's unsurprising. I mean, it kind of felt like he was right there at the edge of his career going into this year. But I got to say, man, I feel like he doesn't get enough love because he was just kind of a quietly great quarterback. He didn't have the championships, obviously. But, man, he's a tough dude.
Yeah.
I mean, he played without an ACL back in 2007.
He never missed a start in his career either. That's a stat I forgot to mention. 17-year career, didn't miss a start.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. And you include that he tore his ACL and I think another ligament too in his knee.
Yeah.
He still kept continuing to play. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. Shame he couldn't get it done and get a Super Bowl or at least get to one in his career.
Yeah. Do you have a target for the Colts to replace him?
Yeah, I got this man up in Detroit, Matthew Stafford. Okay. I think he'd work. Matt Stafford is a bad dude. He can win you games.
Yeah.
It's just Detroit's a terrible organization.
Oh,
so
I 100% agree.
You put them down there in Indianapolis, they're going to win a lot of games and go to the playoffs easily.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I always thought Stafford was held back by the organization. You got guys, you get Calvin Johnson as your top target. He retires there. It's just an unfortunate organization to be a part of, but he puts up numbers. He passes the ball very well. Riley, your thoughts on Phillip Rivers' decision to retire, and who should the Colts target this offseason?
I was surprised Phillip Rivers called it a career after this year. I thought that he was talented enough to have one more final season to go around, but he said after he retired that he was excited to pursue high school coaching. He wanted to coach high school football, so I think we aren't going to hear the last of Phillip Rivers. He's going to be going to coach's alma mater. They're a state powerhouse, so he's someone that I think is going to remain in coaching, and we might see him again on a field one day, just in a different capacity. So I love Phillip Rivers. I think a lot of the things that he accomplished for the game of football are pretty honorable, and it sucks to see an all-time quarterback like that, a generational quarterback, one of the guys who stuck out from the crowd, have to end their career. But I love the Matthew Stafford take for Indianapolis. I think he'd be a great target. Another target that I think might be sneakily available is Teddy Bridgewater. I think he might be another placeholder quarterback for Indianapolis, someone that they could look at. And if the New York Jets change their mind, which I don't think that they're going to do after they hired Robert Saleh, they expressed some interest in keeping Sam Darnold. But if Sam Darnold is available on the table, I think Indianapolis is a way better place for him to be than New York. So that would be another option.
Brendan, your thoughts on who should the Colts target?
Yeah, I think it's definitely about time that Phillip Rivers hangs up his cleats. It's with Phillip Rivers, I got tired of watching this guy get to the playoffs and then lose. He's played in only 12 postseason games, believe it or not, between the Chargers and the one with the Colts. So he never really showed me that I can win in the playoffs. I think he got to the AFC Championship game once, and that was it. I think 2007 he made it far, but it was like one and done with Phillip Rivers. Like, to me, a great quarterback is able to win in the playoffs, and he just never did. So I never thought he was the answer for the Colts, obviously. But as far as Indianapolis goes, I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a quarterback.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a few that would fit well, like Mac Jones or Zach Wilson from BYU. They might be able to fill that void for the Colts. But another one that might be interesting is Sam Darnold. Get him out of New York and put him in an organization that is right-minded and not out of flux and knows how to win. That might be the best, for Sam Darnold to get something out of his career. But yeah, I think Phillip Rivers, not first ballot Hall of Famer, but he'll eventually end up in Canton someday.
Yeah, I think he had a great career. Like Riley said, quarterback that we grew up watching, obviously 17-year career, a lot of us 20, 21 years old. So we grew up on this guy playing for the Chargers. Like Brendan said, never could get it done in the playoffs, but I still think a great quarterback because he got the Chargers and even the Colts there in his one season, but he got the Chargers there a lot. Just couldn't finish it. It's tough when you're going through your whole career with Tom Brady in the AFC. That doesn't help. So you also got guys like Ben Roethlisberger you're going up against, Joe Flacco in his one-year prime. It's a tough AFC that he played in for 17 years. He'll finish top 5 in 2 of the biggest stats you can as a career, so I still think it was a great career, future Hall of Famer. As for the Colts go, I love the Matthew Stafford take because I'm one of those big Stafford fans that like I said, I believe he's just in the wrong organization. I'm not a big fan on the Wentz take that a lot of people are saying. I think Wentz is just a couple knees too late in his career to be anything. I do like the draft take. I think Mac Jones is their best option because I don't think Zach Wilson's going to fall to them. I think Lance, Wilson, Fields, and Lawrence will all go top 20, and the Colts won't get a chance unless they trade up to get one of those two. So I'm saying if they go draft, they go Mac Jones. But I don't think they're out of it as far as the Watson trade goes, and I think Watson would be a much better fit with the Colts. The Colts already obviously a playoff caliber defense. If you add Deshaun Watson to that team, the Colts might be a really fun team to watch. So I'm pushing for Watson in Indy, but we'll see. A lot can happen. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Colts take on free agency in their offseason. It's going to be interesting how teams draft too. depending on the status of Watson. If the Texans hold Watson as trade bait as far as the draft goes, if you're a team like the Jets or the Colts or one of those teams that are in the hunt of getting them, what do you do? If you're the Jets at number 2 and you haven't gotten Watson, but he's still talked about in trades, do you draft Fields or Wilson or Lance, or do you take the risk and don't go quarterback because you want Deshaun Watson? So it's gonna be interesting to see.
I don't think that the Texans would ever trade Deshaun Watson to the Colts because they're in the same division.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate.
The Texans are not going to want to see Deshaun Watson twice a year.
That's unfortunate, too, because you guys got to agree. Deshaun Watson in the Colts uniform on that team, that'd be fun. But we'll see. That's it for In the News. As the offseason goes on, we'll see more signings. We'll see more coach signings as well. Maybe even more retirement announcements, as Drew Brees still thinking about his future. So it's not official, even though it sounded like it was. And the way he looked back at the dome after the game, I know I'm not the only one that cried when I saw that, but we'll still wait to see if he's officially done. So, moving on to the divisional round, quite the 4 games. On Saturday, the Packers, they play the Rams. They win 32-18. Aaron Rodgers, another MVP performance. They looked very good. And then the night game, the Bills, they win the defensive battle 17-3 over the Ravens. Pick 6 kind of sealed the deal there. And Lamar Jackson went out with an injury and missed the fourth quarter, basically. But the Bills hold on. They'll be back in the AFC Championship. As for the Sunday slate, the Chiefs hold off a late comeback from the Browns in a 22-17 win at home. And then the Buccaneers take down the Saints 30-20 in the night game as Tom Brady reaches his 14th career conference championship game. Riley, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on these 4 games?
So for the Packers game, I thought that Aaron Rodgers just looked insane. Like the footballs that guy throws are just gorgeous. Like, they're breathtaking. Mm-hmm. You look at them and they look almost as good as a new-to-be bride. Like, they're beautiful. So Rodgers is insane. He is something else. He's playing on another level, and he's the best player in football right now, in my opinion. So that's a huge advantage that the Green Bay Packers have heading into the NFC Championship game. Looking at the Bills game, I thought that was the ugliest game by far of the playoffs so far.
Yeah.
Not fun to watch whatsoever. The Bills' offense really looked stale and flat, but just outside of the fact that they won the game, if they come out like that against the Chiefs, it's a loss. They can chalk it up as going home, and they won't see the Super Bowl. For the Browns-Chiefs game, I don't think the game is that close if Patrick Mahomes is healthy. Patrick Mahomes was really on another level. His checkdowns and his progressions through a football field are probably the best we've seen in a long time. I certainly think by the time he retires, they'll be up there with the likes of Drew Brees, Tom Brady, and Peyton Manning in terms of his decision-making. And he's super talented. I think he's more physically talented than any of those guys ever were. So if the Chiefs get Patrick Mahomes back, it's scary. Let's watch out. And the final playoff game to consider here was Tampa Bay, New Orleans. I didn't really watch the game, but I mean, knowing that was probably Drew Brees' last game, I think that takes away from everything that even happened. Tom Brady and Drew Brees play one final game together. Tom comes on top, which really I don't think was a huge surprise to anyone. But to see Tom Brady throw a touchdown pass to Drew Brees' kids at the end of the game and see Drew Brees take one last look back at the field, that was a pretty special moment. So I think we got some great football this playoff weekend. I think we got some bad football, but it was all pretty good in my opinion. I thought it was a pretty entertaining slate of games for a year that's been kind of crazy.
And a quick question, yes or no, will a team ever go 3-0 against an opponent in a season?
I think it's certainly possible, yeah. I think a team could go 3-0 against an opponent in a season, but in a league like the NFL where these guys are tip-top and performing all the time, it's extremely hard.
Yeah. Brendan, your thoughts on the divisional round?
Yeah, so that first game, Green Bay and Los Angeles, it's just so amazing to see Aaron Rodgers keep his team pulling away from the Rams. Like, LA had a chance in that game, but then Aaron Rodgers came down and scored and extended that lead. Like, LA had a chance, but in reality, they never did have a chance. And with a guy like Rodgers, he's so good. Like that one pump fake, I think he pump faked twice and then ran it into the end zone. Like he's so good that it's like kind of annoying. Like, dude, we get it. You're good. Like, you almost want to watch someone else because he's so good. The other game, Buffalo and Baltimore, the Ravens, I'm sorry. That's what happens when you have a one-dimensional football team, and the only offense you have is clearing that middle of the field and allowing Lamar Jackson to run it for 20, 30 yards. Like, you're not going to win when you have that kind of offense. Lamar Jackson, he's not a good thrower. He's not a good passer. And you have to be able to do that in the playoffs. I mean, look who's remaining in the playoffs. I don't think Lamar Jackson will ever make it past the second round. He's just not good enough in the postseason. He's not showed it. That's real disappointing for the Ravens. I think Buffalo did enough, and I think they have a chance this coming weekend, but Josh Allen is going to have a perfect game. Mm-hmm. That Cleveland-Kansas City game, I mean, we can talk about it if you want. Like, Cleveland definitely got screwed a little bit in that first half. Yeah, I know the rule is the rule, but you missed the first. You missed what happened first. Like, it's not a fumble if that's not a helmet-to-helmet. And I think that makes it a little bit more of a game. Now, if they did get the helmet-to-helmet call and they do score and make it, a one-score game heading into halftime, and Lamar Jackson doesn't go out in the second half, I still don't think it would be as close because, like Riley said, Pat Mahomes is just nuts. It's unfair to other defenses. But, give all the credit in the world to Cleveland. They stood in that game. They'll have an interesting offseason to see if they can get back to that divisional round and maybe make the AFC Championship. And I also agree with Riley. I did not watch that Tampa Bay New Orleans game. I'm tired of watching those two guys play, especially against each other. Like, it's just not interesting to me. No disrespect, two great careers, but hang it up. Come on. I mean, Drew Brees won Super Bowl. That's it. I don't know how you're so special. You can't get back. Like, it's hard. I followed the game. Great game. Great moment on the field after, I guess. But I really hope Aaron Rodgers is able to beat Tom Brady.
Ben, your thoughts on the divisional round?
I mean, I thought it was a good weekend. There were some exciting games. I mean, you got to see Aaron Rodgers just go out there and just be Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's insane how good this man is at football. Even as he's starting to get up there in age, he's still just top of his game. It's incredible. And then Baltimore Ravens, Buffalo Bills, I enjoyed that one a lot. I enjoyed seeing the Ravens come unraveled, see Lamar throw a pick six, 101, 102 yards, something like that, if I remember correctly, to Taron Johnson. Now, you don't want to see him get hurt there, but I enjoyed seeing the Ravens get knocked out. That's for sure. I almost turned off the Kansas City Browns game, to be honest. I thought the Chiefs were really starting to pull away. It was going to get bad and ugly. Then the Browns kind of kept it interesting. Then obviously Patrick Mahomes gets dinged up. And the Browns, I honestly feel if they got one more possession, they probably win that game. It felt like they had momentum. But Chad Henne, he hasn't done much in his career, but he just saved Kansas City's hopes of repeating as Super Bowl champions. That's for sure. And then finally, Tampa Bay, New Orleans. Didn't watch this one as much as I wanted to. Man, it doesn't feel real that Drew Brees, who's a guy who's been in the league basically our entire lives, is about to be out of the league. Possibly, all signs look that it's probably his last time playing. Man, that's sad. That is, I don't know how to feel about that. But obviously, Tom Brady gets another chance to get another Super Bowl. I think him and Aaron Rodgers should be a good matchup this weekend. I would take the Green Bay Packers by probably a score or two, though. And finally, do I think someone's ever going to go 3-0 against the same team in this season? I don't think it is. I mean, it's really hard to do that, especially at the highest level. Because if you're playing a team 3 times, that means they've also made the playoffs. So I don't know if you're going to be able to get all 3.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's possible.
I agree. It's tough to do 3 in a row. Or not 3 in a row, but 3-0. My thoughts on these games. So Packers, I agree. Aaron Rodgers, this is the year for him. Obviously, he had a fire lit underneath him when the Packers drafted Jordan Love, maybe. And then Jordan Love ended up laying an egg in training camp. But still, Aaron Rodgers playing out of his mind. And it wouldn't surprise me if Love's moved on from already. As for the Bills, it definitely wasn't a pretty football game, but the Bills did what they had to do to win. And Bills Mafia was all about it. 17-3 victory. And the Ravens just didn't look good. They were exposed once again in the playoffs. As for the Chiefs-Browns game, I agree with Brendan. Missed helmet-to-helmet call. I mean, if it's 16-10 there, it's a different ball game. If the Browns come out and score in that second half, they have a 17-16 lead. But nonetheless, if Mahomes stays in that whole game, you also have to go toe-for-toe. It probably ends up becoming a shootout if that helmet-to-helmet's called and Mahomes doesn't get hurt. But kudos to the Browns for holding on. They're obviously a few defensive pieces away from being serious contenders for quite a few years. I think if they add what they need to as far as linebacking, just defense in general, defensive back especially, if they add what they need in the offseason, I could see them being the favorites in the AFC North, and it could become their division for a little while. As far as Tampa Bay New Orleans goes, I'm kind of disappointed in all 3 of you not watching that game in the sense that it's 2 of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the sport going at it for one final time, potentially. But Tom Brady, 14 career conference championship games, that blows my mind. I mean, I think the second player on that list is Joe Montana with 6 as far as the quarterback position goes. So to have 14 appearances in your conference championship just goes to show that this man. Also, when Tom Brady left, everybody was talking about, will Brady succeed without Belichick? Will Belichick succeed without Brady? I think it's safe to say that Brady won this exchange here, but kudos to the Buccaneers.
Is Drew Brees really one of the greatest of all time?
Yeah. I mean, he's number 1 in passing yards, number 2 in touchdowns, number 1 in completion percentage.
All right, where is he at as far as Super Bowls go?
I mean, he has 1, but look at the Saints teams he's played on. Before the last 5 years, the Saints teams that he took the playoffs
also only
weren't that
has
good.
the stats because he's played so long. And I think a little longer than he should have.
I mean, but look at the teams he's played for. Before these last few years, the Saints were nothing to write home about. Do you know who Marcus Colston is? That was his number 1 receiver for about 7 years. So the fact that you don't know who he is just proves that Drew Brees never really had a team. The Patriots' defense was always good.
I measure quarterbacks on how they win in the playoffs and if they can win in the Super Bowl. And he just has always choked. He's always come up short of the Super Bowl.
He's also been screwed over by missed pass interference.
Pretty highly of Matthew Stafford earlier. Matthew Stafford's really good, but how could he ever succeed with the team? You know what I mean? You got to look at it prospectively, same way as Drew Brees. Drew Brees was succeeding with a team that had no business winning. Marquez Colston was a goat in Madden, but in real life, he's pretty bad.
That's my point. Drew Brees never had that marquee team. The defense was good 1 year, and that's the year they won the Super Bowl. Now they've gotten a decent defense, and they make the playoffs year in and year out and win the South. It's their division. But it's tough. And then you got you also have gotten very, very unfortunate luck. I mean, that pass interference missed call, you move on. You probably go to the Super Bowl and beat the Patriots instead of the Eagles. And then you also got the
don't be in that position.
Minneapolis Miracle. If he gets that chance to make that tackle one more time, he makes it. It's just unfortunate luck as far as the Saints go. But I still think he's top 5 quarterback all time, arguably top 3. And the top 3, I would say, is Brady, Manning, Brees. Not in that order, but just those 3 are the guys I'd put in my top 3.
I don't know. I just don't think Breeze has. I mean, I think he's in the same category as Aaron Rodgers. One Super Bowl your whole life. Like Pat Mahomes, I think is already overtaking Drew Brees. He's going to win another Super Bowl this year, go back to back. And
not if Bills Mafia has something to say about it.
At the end of Pat Mahomes' career, he's going to be much better than Drew Brees.
I agree with that. Patrick Mahomes is probably going to be the best quarterback we've ever seen play the game by the time he retires.
And I agree with Riley there. I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying you can't not have Drew Brees in your top 3, or at least top 5 with Favre, and I'd even say Aaron Rodgers is in my top 5 all-time careers.
Yeah, but there's guys like Joe Montana, Dan Marino. They were all really good too. We can't forget the legends.
Yeah,
I think the list is very speculative, but I mean Drew Brees is certainly in that list of just great quarterbacks we've seen play the game.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not saying that he's not a great quarterback. I'm just saying he's not a winner.
The Saints aren't a winner. Anyways, we'll move on. The conference championships are coming up this next weekend, Sunday. Tampa Bay will be the afternoon game, or Tampa Bay Green Bay will be the afternoon game. The NFC Championship and the AFC Championship will be the night game as Buffalo and Kansas City battle it out. But Tampa Bay and Green Bay, Lambeau Field hosts the NFC Championship for the first time in Aaron Rodgers' career. Tom Brady's looking for his 10th Super Bowl appearance. Aaron Rodgers looking for his 2nd, as Brady tries to get his 7th ring and Rodgers trying to get his 2nd ring, and has many appearances. We'll start with this one. Riley, I'll start with you. MVP or the GOAT? And what's the final score?
So am I choosing who's going to win and what I predict the final score to be?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think that Aaron Rodgers is just playing some exceptional football, and I think Devontae Adams is playing like he's possessed, and so is Jair Alexander. So I'm going to have to say that I think Aaron Rodgers makes it to the Super Bowl this year. I just don't think Tampa Bay has enough on the front part, the front 7 of their defense. Mm-hmm. I think their linebackers are a little bit suspect in coverage, and their run they can't stop the run game very well. So I think Aaron Jones is going to have a very good day. I think it's going to be a balanced attack from Green Bay, and they're going to end up winning this one 28-24. And I feel like it's going to be one of those late touchdowns. Maybe they put 7 points on the board late in the game, and that's what makes it 28-24. So 28-17 will be my safe score, but don't be surprised if there's another touchdown thrown in there at the end.
All right. Ben, Packers or Bucks? What's the score?
I already touched on Packers-Bucks, but I just reiterate that. I think Packers probably by 2 scores. I think Aaron Rodgers is just playing on too different of a level for the Bucks to stop them. So I think he's going to his first Super Bowl since a decade ago. Wow, it feels like a lifetime ago, honestly.
Yeah.
It's been about 10, 11 years.
Yeah.
Was that not the 2011 Super Bowl?
Yeah, it was 10 or 11.
10 was Steelers and Cardinals, correct?
I thought that was 09.
09, you're right. So I think it's been 11 years now.
Wow. So
2011, they beat Pittsburgh.
Okay, so it was 10 years ago. Still a decade.
But. Yeah, feels longer though, I swear.
Brendan. Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
And then over in the AFC, I think Chiefs by 2 scores if Pat Mahomes plays.
Okay.
I think that's the easy bet. That's the easiest money you'll ever make.
Brendan. Packers or Bucks?
Yeah, I got to go Packers here. Tom Brady, they have a solid offense, but you saw that their defense has a lot of holes in it, allows other teams in the ball games like they did against Washington when they let in a backup quarterback to stay in that ball game. That defense is not going to have a chance against Aaron Rodgers if he did what he did against LA. So in that game, I got to go more like 38, 27 or something like that. I think Tampa Bay is going to get a garbage time touchdown, but then it won't be enough. And then the AFC, depending on where Pat Mahomes is at, if he's healthy enough and his same old self. He can put 40 on this Buffalo team. I don't know how good Josh Allen is going to be. I mean, this is going to be the biggest game of his career so far. In Arrowhead, cold weather. I know he's able to play in cold weather, obviously, but I think it's going to be a 40-point game for Kansas City, and they move on to the Super Bowl again.
So for me, I agree and disagree with you, Brendan. Last week, Tom Brady was bailed out by his defense, but they can't keep that up. So I agree with you in the sense that they're not consistent enough, and that's why I think the Packers will win. There's no way the Buccaneers get 4 takeaways again, and that's ultimately the reason the Buccaneers pulled it off against the Saints. They won the field position battle and the turnover battle. But I don't think it happens again. I think the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, they hold on to the ball. They win easily. Last week, I said 31-17 Packers over the Rams. It was 32-18, so I was off by 2 total points. I'm going to go 31-20 in this one as Go Pack Go moves on to the Super Bowl. Brendan and Ben kind of jumped the gun here on the AFC one as we heard their predictions, but the Bills and Chiefs will battle out in Arrowhead. Mahomes seeks his second Super Bowl appearance in back-to-back seasons, and Josh Allen seeks his first appearance in the big game, and the Bills' first appearance since the 1993 season, the 94 Super Bowl, as that was their 4th loss in the Super Bowl, as the Bills organization looks for their first. So, Riley, we heard Brendan and Ben's takes on the Chiefs-Bills game. Who are you taking, Bills Mafia or Chiefs Kingdom, and what's the score?
So, this game is going to be the most uncertain game of football I've watched in a really, really long time, because we could be getting the Patrick Mahomes that was limping against the Browns, or we could be getting the Patrick Mahomes that was tearing up the Browns in the first quarter and a half or 2 quarters while he was still healthy. So, I think that if Patrick Mahomes shows up and he's at least 80%, the Chiefs win by at least a score. But if Patrick Mahomes shows up and he's limping and he is not feeling great like he was when he hurt that toe against the Browns, the Chiefs are in trouble because Chad Henne can't do it all. He is not Patrick Mahomes, and if he would have played another 5 minutes against the Browns, they lose that game in my opinion. So I think that this is a really scary game for the Chiefs. I think that they don't want everyone to know how scary it is, but that it's scary for them. And I think that this one's going to be pretty close, 35-27 maybe, 35-28. It's going to be a one-score game, I think. But right. I will take the Chiefs if Patrick Mahomes is all right.
I'm sticking with my prediction from before the playoffs. I said Bills-Packers in the Super Bowl. And I'm sticking with it. I say 28-27 Buffalo as Josh Allen takes Bills Mafia back to the big game for the first time since '94, the Allen Diggs connection. And I 2 of the best fan bases in football as far as the Cheeseheads and Bills Mafia will get to meet in the big game.
So you're predicting 28-27. Is that a missed PAT, or is that the Bills going for 2 and taking it at the end?
I'm saying that it's 27-21 Chiefs after 2 field goals, and the Bills punch it in and get the extra point to win it.
Perfect.
So, although when you're playing in Kansas City, that win can get pretty gnarly. So missed PAT is never out the window there, Riley. That's for sure. But that's it for the NFL as we look forward to the conference championship weekend here this Sunday. We'll have 2 good ones, hopefully, on board for us. Now it is time for last call. Riley, I'll start with you. McGregor versus Poirier. Poirier, who you got?
Conor McGregor is in the best shape that we've seen him in since he was a champion. And I believe that he's going to try and make a statement to get that next fight with Khabib. Conor McGregor within 2 rounds.
All right, Brendan, who you got?
I don't know how you beat McGregor. He gets angry, and you are out of luck. And I think Poirier, great skilled fighter. You know, his fundamentals are always on. He's just a little too nice, and that does not bode well when you go up against Conor McGregor. So, I agree with Riley. This could be 2 rounds, but with McGregor, it could be over even sooner.
And Ben, McGregor or Poirier?
Oh, this is easy. The double champ, Conor McGregor, by knockout. Put $1,000 on it.
Oh.
Put your house on it.
Put my house
the
on
house
it.
you and Rosie just got. Put it on it.
I don't know if I can do that.
Champ.
And your car.
And the car.
Easy money.
What about the dog? Put the dog on it. No.
I mean, feeling adventurous.
Loki's going to give me that look. I'm just going to start chasing me and runs away. No, I'm in agreement, though. I'm going McGregor knockout as well, probably in the first 2 rounds, like Riley said. I wouldn't be surprised if it's similar to the Cowboy fight with the fire that McGregor's coming in with. So this might be a quick one. You're going to pay that $70, $75, whatever for pay-per-view, and you're going to wait all night just to see McGregor do the same thing he did last year.
Poirier's a good fighter, though. He shouldn't be counted out. In the first fight that they had, he clipped McGregor a few times to the point where I thought another 2 crisp shots on him would have put him out. But McGregor is the most unorthodox striker in the UFC outside of Israel Adesanya. So
yeah,
there's something to be said for that, too. He's a special talent. He's a special fighter.
And so for our final question here on Last Call on RaiderZone episode 12, this one was stemmed from a lot of people saying, I love the tradition of college football. I'd rather play college football than the NFL. Brendan, I'll start with you. Would you rather win a Super Bowl or a college football championship?
Yeah, so this is really tough. Both championships are kind of completely different. In the NFL, you got to go through the gauntlet to even get to the Super Bowl in the first place. You got to go through maybe a team, like we said, a third time, and you have to go through tough quarterbacks that are in both the AFC and NFC, and then even winning the Super Bowl, very tough. And then when you win the Super Bowl, you are kind of plastered up in a conversation with so many legends of the game. So there's definitely a special part of winning the Super Bowl. In college, right now you only have to win 2 games to get there. Before 2015, you're automatically sent to it. But you're also winning the college football championship for a whole community. I know you're winning the Super Bowl for a whole city, but there's definitely something different about a community at a college or university where you're representing a whole athletic department, a whole school, student body, and it's college. You're a bunch of kids. It's really special, something unique about football. So in my opinion, I'm more of a college football fan than I am an NFL fan. So I definitely have to go with winning the college football championship. I think there's more, pomp and circumstance around college than there is in the NFL. So I'll go with college football.
Riley, Super Bowl or college football championship?
I think a lot of people look for validation or, some reinforcement that what they're doing is the right thing and that they're truly good at what they do. People want their jobs to be something that shows them that their hard work pays off. And I think the NFL just sets up such a great environment for the Super Bowl in that guys from all over the nation come together playing for one common goal, and they've made it. They know that they're good at football, but do they still have that drive? Are they still hungry to keep improving and to be the best football player they could be every day? And I think a Super Bowl proves that. Like, that's just a special moment to know that I've worked super hard to get here. I've dedicated myself to my craft, and my craft has paid off. And it's just like an artist painting. I think every time you see a Super Bowl team win, you're seeing 53 guys who, from the age of 6 and 7 sometimes, have been working for that moment their whole lives. So I just think there's something special about a Super Bowl, and I think being a Super Bowl champion would just be amazing. So I'm going to go with being a Super Bowl champion.
Ben?
I got to go with the Super Bowl. I think it's just harder to win a Super Bowl. So I think you got to go with that because it's so much harder, which makes it all the more sweeter when you finally get to the other side, get to the top of the mountaintop. So I got to go with the Super Bowl win.
Okay. For me, I think it would be amazing to lead your favorite college football team your whole life growing up watching to a championship. But for a Super Bowl, you're immortalized forever, and you get paid to do it. So, no, I'm probably picking the Super Bowl for the factor that it's a tough feat. Not a lot of people retire without ever getting a Super Bowl ring, and I mean, even greats. I mean, Larry Fitzgerald, no ring, never will. The list goes on. I was just naming Larry Fitzgerald because he was one that almost had one, just in the grasp, and then Ben Roethlisberger goes past there in the corner of the end zone, takes down the Cardinals. But I would probably go Super Bowl. I agree with Ben and Riley. I think it would be really cool. And it even sets you up if you're a quarterback and you win one Super Bowl. You even talked about being one of the all-time greats, unless you're Joe Flacco, of course. But nonetheless, I'm picking Super Bowl. But that is it for episode 12 of RaiderZone. Thank you all again for listening. For Ben Johnson Bowers, for Brendan DeVinny, and Riley Sullivan, I'm Will Brianza, and we thank you all again for listening to RaiderZone.